Good morning and a warm welcome to those attending and also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. Details of the business to be considered today is shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room, and it is also accessible online under the live broadcast. For those present in the room and intending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statements you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be audible online if the microphone is switched on. Fire alarm. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm goes off, please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building. Mobile and tablet devices. For those in the room, please switch off any mobile devices before the meeting starts and put them on silent. Please note that councillors on the committee may use laptops. Excuse me. Declarations of interest. Please ensure that you identify which item you have an item of interest in. State whether your interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and give the reason that you have an interest. Members need not declare an interest in any item on the agenda where they have already listed this item on the register of interests. Thank you for those attending and watching online. Moving on to the agenda itself, item number 1, apologies for absence.
No apologies for absence, Chairman.
Thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest in matters coming before this committee. Any declarations? Okay. Item 3, to confirm that the items in business marked Part 1 will be considered in public and items marked Part 2 will be considered in private. Just for reference, this meeting is in Part 1, it's public. Item number 4, matters that have been notified in advance. Nothing.
Madam Chairman.
Okay. I can now move to Part 1. Item number 5, which is the actual application in question. Application for the grant of a premises licence to St Helen's School in Northwood. Now, if we turn over to the next page, to the agenda, we'll run through the agenda items in the order that they're done. Firstly, I'd like to invite an introduction by the Regulatory Services Licensing Officer.
Thank you, Chairman. My name's Mark McDermott. I'm the licensing officer in this case. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You will have all received the report bundle and will be familiar with the application. This is a hearing to consider a contested application for a new premises licence in respect of St Helen's School, Eastbury Road, Northwood, HA6 3AS. The application was submitted by Maria Dimmock on behalf of St Helen's School, Northwood, a registered charity, and Jackie Brinicum, Assistant Business Director for the school, attends today on behalf of the applicant. The proposal is to sell alcohol on Fridays from 1600 hours to 2000 hours in a social setting for staff and their invited guests. The provision of recorded music was included on the application, but this is not required as background music is not a licensable activity. One representation has been received from a local resident, Ms. Sally Corliss, regarding the potential increase in public nuisance. Correspondence has been sent by the applicant, but an agreement could not be reached. And Ms. Corliss has indicated that she fundamentally opposes the grant of the licence for the reasons stated in her objection. I recommend the grant of the licence as detailed in my report, but this is a decision for the committee, and I invite the committee to determine the application. Thank you.
Now turn to you. It's your opportunity. As you just known, please press the mic as and when you want to speak. There's no time limit. Though obviously I'd like you to stay relevant and pertinent to the thing, but in your own time.
Thank you. Yes, so the application has been made, the rationale being that the senior leadership want to reach out to their staff in a very different non-work related context, which is an important part of building a cohesive team. It's about bringing staff together in a social context. That's teaching and non-teaching. We all work across a large site, 22 acres, and very rarely get to meet each other. And that's even within sort of teaching departments, but very much sort of teaching and non-teaching. We very often only communicate by email or telephone or in passing in the corridor. So this is really an opportunity once a week to bring us together in a safe, quiet environment for us to be able to meet each other and discuss things that we couldn't discuss in a pub, and certainly a venue of that kind wouldn't be available to us locally anyway, but it's a private environment where we can discuss concerns that are raised during the week, individual cases of students where we can only discuss things confidentially, and that's again discussed informally, not for formal meetings obviously. In respect of the numbers of attendees and the concerns around guests being invited, it's purely for staff and their partners generally. All students are off site by 3:30 on a Friday, they finish early, and so the only invited guests would be partners of those staff. It's highly unlikely that we would have very many of those attending anyway, because the majority of them will be working elsewhere, and generally won't be around to be available. Less than 50% of our staff work on a Friday, and of those, many of those only work in the morning, so we wouldn't have very many staff at all actually staying on a Friday, and after a busy work week I think it's unlikely that you'll get all staff attending, and certainly won't be attending for the whole evening. In respect of drinking alcohol, yes, it will be, hopefully, if granted, be available, but a number of staff drive, a number of staff don't drink, and those that do would drink within sensible proportions, and certainly the suggestion that we would be drunk and disorderly I think is a little unlikely, certainly from the members of staff that I know of. We do want to make a social environment. There is a precedent for this, and the comments raised by the representation regarding there isn't any such thing in a work environment. Merchant Taylors, the boys' school, which is very close to us, they have a social club which is working extremely well, run very professionally and well managed. I've spent most of my career in the NHS, and every hospital I've worked in has a social club to offer the same facility to staff to relax in a private, enclosed, safe environment, as do many other employers, and increasingly so. As I say, there will be no children of staff permitted to attend. This would be adults only. And in terms of her concerns around the noise, the facility within the grounds is probably the most central point of the site. It is an inside room as well, and the music would only be background. So the noise travelling would be very unlikely. In respect of when staff leave, we of course will make sure that staff leave respectfully, and we will have signage at all of our exit points to reinforce that. We do have many exit points, and the exit point at Carey Road where the lady lives is probably the smallest parking area. I think we only have 10 parking spaces. The largest is on Green Lane, where most staff will be parking, and so again the noise levels of cars leaving at 8 p.m. Will be minimal to those residents in that area. I don't think I've really got anything else to share other than it's purely just the social environment. Thank you.
Oh, that's fine. Can I ask you to turn your mic off, please? Thank you. Does anybody have any questions at this stage? Councillor Gardner.
There'll be other optional refreshments, presumably, rather than just alcohol.
Absolutely.
Yep. Do you have a follow-up question at all, Councillor Gardner? Anything else? No. Councillor Melvin? No, that's fine. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, responsible authorities. I'm correct in thinking we have no representations? Okay. Moving on to the next item, other parties, residents, etc. We have no representations?
Not present.
Okay, thank you. And there's no requirement to read out statements or anything of that nature?
No, it's in the agenda pack.
Exactly, yes, thank you. Right, we now move to the, shall we say, the meat of the meeting, which is the discussion led by the subcommittee. Bearing in mind there would normally be potentially other participants as well. I'm not sure how this will go, but obviously we can go. I do have a few questions I'd like to ask, if I may. I think it's already been mentioned that you've applied for recorded music, but you don't actually want recorded music. It's actually background music that you're having, so that's not licensable, sort of thing. So you actually mentioned, I was going to ask you what time does the school finish on Fridays, and it's 3:30. So we're quite clear that by 3:30 there will be no children on site, and there's no, how can I put this, there's no after schools activity on a Friday as opposed to other days of the week. Can you confirm that?
That's correct, yes. All school activities, all co-curricular activities are Monday to Thursday, and nothing on a Friday.
My next point I was going to ask, I think you've applied for it to be... Oh. It has to be me, didn't it? I was going to crack a joke about £5 to the Mayor's charity, but I forgot to say that, so I'm not eligible for it. Sorry? You've been witness, Chairman. Yeah. Moving on quickly. Term time only. Would you, on the basis that it will just be term time only, would you be comfortable if we put you have no objections to actually putting that in as a condition?
No, not in principle, no, absolutely. But the majority of staff are only in on term time. There's a very small staff, including myself, that are here outside of term.
Okay. My only other point I was going to ask, you've applied for 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. Possibly showing my age here, but you know, when I should say I'm teetotal nowadays, so I haven't been in the pub for years, sort of thing. But it used to be the case that you had drinking up time. You don't have to have drinking up time, but theoretically, under these hours, somebody could buy a drink at 7:59 and be required to drink up and leave within the next 60 seconds, so to speak. Would you like the option of putting in drinking up time, or are you...
I guess if that's available and something that would be acceptable, it's not something I'd considered, quite frankly. So, yes, I guess so. And yeah, I mean, 8 p.m. will be the time that we will be expecting staff to leave site. So, I guess it would be reasonable to stop selling alcohol before that time.
Yeah. So if we say, for the sake of argument, 15 to 20 minutes drinking up time.
Yes.
So you would actually stop serving at 7:40.
Yes.
Let's say, and then there's 20 minutes. So it's not just a question of having to stop drinking by 8. My understanding is that the building is closed and the lights are off and the doors locked, so to speak, at 8, sort of thing. Okay, thank you. My last point I was going to ask you is, obviously it's not a public building, it's not a public house, so to speak, but by the same token it's not such a private club, it's in a sort of halfway house. If memory serves, in the application, I can't remember the actual wording, but the wording in the application wasn't quite the same as the response given to the objector in terms of who besides staff would be able to attend. I think in one it's described purely as partners and not the friendship group, and then in the other one it's guests, which could mean all manner of things, so to speak. Could you just clarify who would be invited besides staff?
My understanding is that it will be staff and, well, I guess they can invite a friend, but you certainly wouldn't have large friendship groups. I wouldn't be able to invite my friendship group, so it would be a partner or a close friend.
Yeah. So you wouldn't envisage, for example, as you say, it's not a question of come to the school after work and...
not at all.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of, yeah, okay. That's the only questions I have. Does anybody else have any questions? Or? Oh, that's good. It's good to know. Is there anything else anybody wants to say or covered? Okay. Yeah. Moving on to closing remarks. Again, normally other responsible parties would have an opportunity to close what they've said, but obviously there's nobody else in attendance, so it might seem a bit strange given the fact that you're the only guest, so to speak, but would you like to make any closing remarks?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That in many ways concludes the meeting then. I'm glad I didn't take my coat off, actually, to be honest. What will happen now is that the subcommittee will... The meeting's finished. We're now going to part 2, effectively. the committee will deliberate and make a decision. I suspect the decision will be relatively quickly made. So if you wanted to wait outside, I suspect we'll have a decision for you, not a formal decision, but a sort of thumbs up or thumbs down, so to speak, in the next 10-15 minutes if you want to wait. If you don't want to wait, you're free to go. And there will be a formal, somebody will phone you, so to speak. Would you like to wait? Okay. If I could invite you to wait outside then, if that's okay. Are you okay with that, Steve?
Yep. I'll close the door as well.
And we'll see you in 10-15 minutes. Thank you.